Hello and welcome to another Flatback 3 video and podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to have a partner in crime today, George Turner, making his return. I, of course, am Toby Wellington, and thank you to the 25 of you who have subscribed to the channel and the over 500 of you who have watched our last few videos. We are delighted to have you with us once again, but of course, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel and the podcast on Spotify. George, before we get started talking about the absolute that is the Mandalorian, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. You okay?
No.
Well,
No.
no. Apart from Mandalorian aside.
I am, other than the Mandalorian, I'm pretty good. I am absolutely traumatized by how bad this show has become. There is a number of issues that we're going to discuss today that I've already raised with you via WhatsApp and discussions before we started recording. Yeah, we missed a review last week for the Lizzo and Jack Black episode, which honestly I could have done without ever seeing. And then we are set to review episode 7 of season 3, which, again, in all honesty, is not very good television. But you are a little bit more happy with The Mandalorian and the direction it's going at the moment. So let's start with episode 6, because that one's not going to take us very long, because we are, and everyone is universally agreed that that episode absolutely sucked. So obviously we see The Mandalorian, Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan now, who is the titular character that Mandalorian follows around like a little puppy. So they arrive on this planet that looks like the Eden Project. And they want to go and talk to some Mandalorians, but they're not allowed to until they go and do something, because there are battle droids that are malfunctioning. It turns out that it's an inside job from Christopher Lloyd, who, imagine getting a legendary actor like Christopher Lloyd in to do something in The Mandalorian and having him do that. Anyway, it turns out Christopher Lloyd, it's an inside job. They forgive him in one conversation, but he's got to go and live in isolation. Then they go and talk to the Mandalorians. Bo-Katan obviously kicks the male Mandalorian's ass and is handed the Darksaber, even though we were told that couldn't happen in season 2. And now she's the leader of the Mandalorians. Did I miss anything out? Or
That was pretty much it. Yeah, I've got to be honest, when I saw Christopher Lloyd, it didn't click straight away. I think
I
obviously
love Christopher Lloyd. I love Christopher Lloyd.
he's got such like an amazing like acting voice, isn't he?
And
And as soon as he started talking,
one
I
of
was
the
like, oh,
most
where do I recognize him from?
one of the most iconic actors in Hollywood of all time, arguably, for me, up there with like Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman and people like that. And Jack Black, who's an absolute legend.
Mm.
You get those two actors in to do cameos and you waste them on literally doing nothing in a throwaway episode that basically was an excuse for them to have a fetch quest whilst trying to give Bo-Katan the Darksaber and recruit more Mandalorians, which they could have done in a scene in another episode.
Yeah.
It was just dreadful. Obviously, like when they arrive and they talk to Lizzo. Now, I don't know who Lizzo is. I don't know what she's famous for. The black female actress who was like the queen of the
Okay.
planet. Apparently, she's like a
I,
rapper
I
or
don't know who she is
something.
either.
Well, she can't act. She's not an actress, I can tell you that for free. So that cameo was like, she had no emotion in anything she said or did. She delivered every line without a facial change or a tonal change. And my least favorite thing they do with the Mandalorian now is they made Grogu flip again. Like
Hmm.
anytime Grogu does his Jedi flip, I actually want to throw my TV out the window. Like, it's horrendous that they've got that puppet doing full, like literally just going like that and then twisting
Mm.
back again and calling it a Jedi flip. Horrendous. And then I I did laugh. It was because they went through all this effort to have the battle droids malfunction, and then the like, oh, we've got to go and find out how the battle droids are malfunctioning. And of course, droids are like emotional enough and care enough about their well-being to go to bars and to drink oil and I was like, do they not just shut down at the end of the day? Like, why would they go to a bar and socialize? They are literally machines. But
Mm.
okay, like, yeah, we're going to assume that they're completely sentient now. That's fine. And it turns out that the only person they talked to other than the two rulers of the planet was the person behind it. I was like, oh, what a surprise. It was Christopher
Yeah.
Lloyd, the only person you've talked to in this whole episode that wasn't the king or queen of the planet. And again, to touch on something me and you said in the last review, since when did every Star Wars planet become one city?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone keeps
Weird,
saying
isn't
that,
it?
like this planet will go to ruin. It's like this is one dome on a whole planet.
Mm.
It's
It's
so
literally like,
confusing.
yeah, it's like a county of UK is a whole planet.
Yeah,
That's what it seems like. Or a
yeah.
town, like St Austell town is like a whole planet.
It is literally a case of right, I'm in London, therefore I am in England.
Yeah.
No, you are in England, but you've not seen the whole of England. You are just in London. No, no, I've seen the whole of England by seeing London. What? It's just honestly, I can't. That was the worst episode of The Mandalorian. But let's talk about episode 7. That's the most recent one. That's the one that's freshest in the memory. I watched them both back to back this morning, so I have a lot of hatred for you now for me having to sit through both because you you were able to watch them one week after the other. You thought episode 7 was a marked improvement compared to what I
Mm.
thought. So would you like to start us off so that we start on a positive note?
Sure. It's a good idea. Yeah. I thought this episode, and judging the introduction of the episode, like the previews and stuff, it was tying everything together. It was like mentioning about the that mentioned about the Doctor and the previous episodes. You know, we have those couple of random episodes halfway through. We're like, well, what's this got to do with anything? And we saw Moff Gideon again. One of my favorite scenes, I know touched on it briefly at the start, was the end scene with the big blue Mandalorian. For me personally, I actually watched that twice because I was eating my dinner at the time. And I was quite into it. I thought it was very good. But I don't know about you, but like as soon as I saw that character, because I think he's been in the program for like a couple of seasons now, hasn't he? Like he's always been like the armorer's like right hand man. And I think you just know with any sci-fi or fiction program, you're gonna have like this badass warrior who's not the main character, but he's gonna die at some stage. So it's like he's either gonna die or he's gonna end up being like the spy because this episode was called The Spies,
Yeah, and there were
which
no
I'm sure we'll
spies
get onto.
revealed.
Yeah, so I'll get onto that in a minute. So yeah, I knew this guy was probably gonna die, and as soon as he like pulled the lever to shut the gate behind him, I thought, oh, is this gonna be a scene? And I thought he was gonna get away. I thought
Yep.
he beat
He
all the
should have,
stormtroopers.
George. He should have. That's the point. That's my point. I have to say, we'll jump straight to the end scene. I know you enjoyed it, but I've literally told you it's riddled with plot holes. That whole scene, it's absolutely riddled with them because there are like, I don't know, let's say 10 as a round number, 10 stormtroopers that they're fighting against whilst Bo-Katan has finally, and we'll talk about all of this in a minute, but Bo-Katan's finally started cutting a hole in one of the blast doors with the dark saber that she had for about 3 or 4 minutes. Um, and yeah, the Mandalorians start escaping, and he's like, run away. There are too many of them. I will handle them. And he proceeds to kill every single one of them quite comfortably. He kills about 8 or 9 of them with his gun and then stabs a couple of them and throws them into the hangar. And then 3 extra soldiers, the ones from the throne room, I can't remember the name of them. I don't care enough. The 3 from the throne room in The Last Jedi come in and they use their anti-lightsaber weapons to kill him. And I know you said it was like a good scene for you, but had his gun not overheated, he probably would have killed them as well. But also there are too many of them run away, and then he killed them all on his own. So had Bo-Katan stayed, he might have actually survived. Or after he killed them all, instead of standing around, he could have run away. Um, yeah, it was a farcical scene. Like it was awful. This whole episode made me hate the Mandalorian even more than I already do at the moment. Because I've said to George, I've said to my wife today, if I didn't watch this to review it, I wouldn't watch it anymore. I'm completely checked out with this.
Do you think he said that on purpose, like in that there's too many of them, he was just trying to like save them all by distract them because he probably knew he could beat them all, but he was just giving them time to escape.
But they are like, what was stopping the Empire from chasing after the ones that were running out? Like they jetpacked in like 5 minutes before. They jetpacked in from somewhere that we didn't even see on screen, and they went back out that way. So they could have just ambushed them again on the other side of the door. There's nothing to stop them from doing that. But the program decided that they just got away safely because he made this grand sacrifice that, again, he didn't have to make. And if the Mandalorians had all stayed and fought, then they would have defeated everyone in that hangar comfortably.
Mm.
I just think that they've made the Mandalorians throughout the series, and especially in the last few episodes, look ridiculously stupid. I mean, Bo-Katan has got to be the stupidest leader or just the stupidest character that we've had in The Mandalorian. And of course, she's now the main character. There is no debate that this is the Bo-Katan show. Mandalorian literally in this episode said, I pledge myself to you. So he's now officially turned into her lackey or her bodyguard or whatever he's going to be. She watched Din Djarin get captured and then watched whilst Moff Gideon gave like a 5-minute monologue about his grand plan. And she stood there with the Darksaber in her pocket for the whole time. She could have cut a way through to Din Djarin to try and help him, could have cut a way out for the other Mandalorians way before she started doing it. But she just stood there and listened to his monologue.
I just thought, why did the Mandalorians run away?
I
Why
don't
did
know.
they not stay and fight?
I don't know. Why
'Cause that
did
was
anything in this
after
episode happen?
because after Din Djarin got taken away, there was a
Let's also
moment there
really
where they were all
quickly
still captured.
let's just really quickly touch on that as well.
Mm.
Why, if you capture a Mandalorian who's literally beaten you in hand-to-hand combat before, let's not forget, in season 2, and took out your whole ship's worth of men, other than those like dark trooper things, why would you keep him alive? Why would you keep him alive? And then
Yeah,
you've
I
you've
said to you earlier, didn't
literally,
I?
but yeah, but you said like, oh, we don't know the reason yet, but it's like they should tell us in this.
Yeah.
Why my camera is making me look red? I don't know, but the we shouldn't have to predict and guess and try and figure out what the show is trying to tell us. The show should make it much clearer what is happening and what the threat. Let's not forget, it's the penultimate episode, episode 7. There's one more episode to go. We've only just now come across Moff Gideon, who's the main villain, and the
Mm.
Empire, and all of this stuff. The series has been spinning its wheels until this moment, and then they delivered it horrendously. Because Din Djarin got captured, you'd kill him. You would 100% kill him. Also, he specifically stated that this was a plan because he said, thank you for collecting all the Mandalorians in one place. So they caught them between those blast doors and then let them escape. You could have gassed them. You could have had people on both sides open the doors and just start blasting them. You could have put grenades in there. You could have done anything. But instead, they cut a hole in the door and they ran away. It is, mate, I don't want to tell you that you're wrong because you are more than welcome to your opinion. That end 5 minutes was absolutely farcical. And
I
let's not
know.
forget as well that Moff Gideon was dressed as Boba Fett, dressed as Darth Maul with the spikes on his helmet, dressed as Darth Vader in all black. Like, he was trying to do his best impression of all the Sith Lords. I hate the Mandalorian at the minute. I do. This is the thing. I hate this series. It's so bad. It's made me hate the series. Din Djarin is an absolute shadow of the character that they made him. And Grogu is on screen every so often to make people go, nah. And then he disappears and does absolutely nothing of note in any episode. And Bo-Katan is stupid. Like, Bo-Katan's the leader of the Mandalorians, right? Let's think about this aspect. Bo-Katan's the leader of the Mandalorians. We're going to retake Mandalore. We've got this massive fleet of Mandalorians again, but let's send a scouting party to find out where the forge is that we need to get to, because that's the main reason they're on Mandalore, is to go and find that forge, right? Why did she take about 30 people with her in a scouting party, first and foremost? Because that just risks you losing like half of your fleet in a scouting party. Also, how does she not know where the forge is?
I don't know.
Think back like 3 episodes or whatever it was where she took Din Djarin to have a bath and
Hmm.
she knew exactly where the waters were. She told us about how she grew up on the planet, blah, 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 took the
Hmm.
Kree, like saw these waters, was here with my father. How do you not know where the most important thing on the planet is, which is the forge?
Did she say that? Did she? She said she wasn't sure, didn't know where they were.
That's why they had to scout ahead to go and find where it was. And then when they got there, Din Djarin was like, "What is this place?" And then someone else explained it's the forge. I
Is
don't
something
understand.
Has something happened since the last time they were there? I think that's the impression I got because they came across those other Mandalorians.
Yeah,
No?
those Mandalorian pirates that have apparently been there the whole time. That was ridiculous as well.
So nothing's happened. That's why I thought they couldn't find it because something had happened or Moff
It's
Gideon was
buried
already there and
underground.
he blew up some stuff.
Buried underground. You can't have moved it or anything. It's so stupid. How she landed, found Mando, found the lake or the waters, whatever, like 3 episodes ago. This time it's like, right, we've got to find a landmark on Mandalore. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know. We're going to have to send 30 people to go and find it. Oh, no, we've been ambushed and now we've lost loads of people. I just honestly, and right, let's talk about the worst bit. Like, we're not doing a structured review at all. This is the thing. We're just moaning. Well, I'm just moaning, and you're trying to convince me otherwise. Um, let's talk about the worst thing in the episode, the thing that I almost literally turned the TV off. Why? I'm going to drop an F bomb. Why the fuck is Grogu in an IG-11?
Yeah. We talked about this just before we hit the record button. It makes him more exposed, it makes him more vulnerable now, doesn't it?
He's more vulnerable. He's more vulnerable because he can't shut anything over
No.
himself to protect himself. He can't fly now. So when the ship that they're on earlier on crashes, he has to get lifted off of it by people instead of his orb just floating away like it has done in the
Mm,
past. He also, because he's driving this thing, can't use the force if he's going to. And
no.
even more annoying is that he presses two buttons, one that says yes and one that says no now. And it shows that he's been taking the piss for the last 3 seasons because he understands exactly what people have been saying to him. And
Mm,
he's been pretending that he can't respond. But this is yes and this is no. But instead of using that, Grogu's just gone for
mm.
3 seasons.
Why do you think he was taken on the mission?
Why is he
That's
taking on any mission? It's a baby. Why is
that's what
he
I
anywhere? It's because they have to keep him involved so they can try and sell toys.
yeah.
He's the biggest
Yeah.
appeal, mate. He's the biggest appeal of the whole show for most people. Most people know
Mm,
Grogu more than they do anything else in the show. Like
yeah.
when The Mandalorian dropped years ago, like Grogu became the biggest selling piece of merchandise for Star Wars, like instantly. And that's
Mm,
why he's on screen every 5 or 6 seconds and why you never see him without making an appearance. Like there was a scene, or there were a couple of scenes in the episode before with the battle droids and stuff like that, where he wasn't on the mission. He stayed with Jack Black and Lizzo, but he kept cropping up in cutaway scenes every so often. And he got knighted at the end of that episode. He didn't even do anything.
mm. So, do you think the success of the program has hindered the story?
No.
Because, as we're
Yes,
saying
it
about,
has. Yes, it has. Yeah, it has 100% because Kathleen Kennedy, the evil bitch that she is, that's ruined Star Wars to the degree that she has done. Let John Favreau, like they did with the first season of Andor, which was very successful in terms of the quality of the show recently. They let some people go and do their own project. As soon as they think, oh my God, this is actually quite popular, they get their claws into it and they ruin it. Because seasons 1 and 2, I said this to Philip earlier on, season 1 and 2 was all about get Grogu back to his people. the Jedi. They did that, and then in the Boba Fett series, they returned Grogu back to Din Djarin, and then they have had no story for the whole of this season until the last episode that we've just watched. All people enjoyed about this series was Grogu and the bounty hunting aspect of it. Din Djarin was a gunslinging bounty hunter, and the first season was the most popular season because of the action and the like straight line story of a gunslinging bounty hunter, something we'd never seen from Star Wars. And you know what the best thing about it was? It wasn't connected to the main timeline. The more they try and weave it into stuff, the more it's ruined it. And as you mentioned earlier on, they are now going to create a movie which is going to tie together all of the events of The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano, Ashoka, whatever she's called, Ashoka, the Jedi character that's got her own series coming out. They're going to tie together everything prior to the sequel series starting, if that makes sense. So before Rey and Finn, which why you would want to revisit that like they're going to, they're going to wrap it all up, but that's not going to come out for like 5 or 6 years. Does that mean we're going to have another at least 2 seasons of The Mandalorian or the Bo-Katan show? Because I'm not going to watch it.
No, well, I haven't heard any more developments of any more seasons. So we were talking earlier, like, do you think this is why Bo-Katan has been given like such a lead role in these last few episodes? Because they're trying to like make her the main star for the film in the future, maybe?
They must be doing something like that. But what infuriates me, and you know that this infuriates me, is that instead of, and this is the thing with Kathleen Kennedy and the almost, and I'm going to sound horrible here for a second, I'm sure, to some people, but the feminist movement in Hollywood by making female characters the strong, independent characters and men being the manzel in distress in most situations now, as they have done with The Mandalorian already in this series and seemingly are going to do in the next episode with him being captured again. Is that they are pushing female characters into positions that they haven't traditionally been in. And that I don't have a problem with. If you want to make a female character the lead of a franchise or the lead of whatever, that is absolutely fine. If you deem that to be the best thing to do with your franchise, you go ahead and do it. Don't use the name of a different character to get them there. That's the thing that annoys me. So we've taken The Mandalorian because it's a successful show. And what we're going to do is we're going to saddle Bo-Katan to The Mandalorian and slowly through the season make her the main character. That's all they've done. They have slowly tried to make you think that Bo-Katan is the main character. And I noticed in this episode more than others that she has started holding and like carrying and being next to Grogu way more often. And I was like, this is tactical to make it look like she has more of a relationship with him. Like, you remember as well, like the Mandalorian had an argument with Grogu about not being allowed in the IG-11. He had an argument about not letting Lizzo hold Grogu when they went to the Eden Project. And like they basically haven't got as much of a relationship anymore from those scenes alone because Grogu doesn't respect what he's telling him. Like if he's telling you no, Grogu, you are technically his child. You should be listening to him. But now she's carrying him around. She's got him in her lap when she's driving the ship. Like when they had the orb, he was floating next to Bo-Katan instead of instead of Din Djarin whilst they were in the ship. And I think you're right. They're just trying to push Bo-Katan to the front. And yes, I understand that some people might say that in like Rebels and Clone Wars or whatever. I haven't watched the animated series. I don't think you have either. Bo-Katan is the main character in sort of the Mandalorian storylines, but at the same time, that's fine. Recreate a Bo-Katan, like create a Bo-Katan show. Like you've had the confidence to do it with Ashoka. You've done the Rey thing, which was horrendous the first time round, but you're going back to it. You're going to have another movie starring Rey. So why not just trust that if you feel that every lead character should be a female, trust them to start their own franchises and start their own shows. Don't just establish Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin, The Mandalorian, over a number of years with passionate fans who really enjoy the product, and then go, now we're going to make it a female character now because fuck you.
I thought 2 weeks ago when we reviewed episode 5, we were going to have the rest of the series was going to be about the tension between the mercenary Mandalorians and like Din Djarin's Mandalorians. I'm not sure what the both parties
Well,
are
we
called,
said,
and
well,
I
we
thought
said,
that's what it's all going to be about.
well, we said in that review, oh, they're establishing a storyline. The Mandalorians are going to take back Mandalore, and that is the storyline. But now it's Moff Gideon again, and it's something that has been introduced at the last second again, and it hasn't been built up to. Like, you're an actor, you've been in like loads of different things. Am I wrong in thinking that you set a storyline up right at the start and then you see it through to a conclusion at the end?
Yeah,
You don't do mini story, mini story, mini story, mini story. Oh, here's the bad guy, 2 episodes to introduce him and get rid of him again.
yeah. It's very confusing because, like, in the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, we have had a set storyline, and I said to you like a couple of weeks ago, this season's been very different. That we've got a story, a plot, and it's resolved at the end of that episode. I'm like, okay, I've got no problem with that. If that's what they want to do, it's a bit different. It's a bit of a shame, personally, but as you said, now they've introduced Moff Gideon again. It's like, well, hang on a minute, what? And we've only got one more episode. It's only like 45 minutes of content to resolve everything.
And he's got these like all these reinforcements that he requested at the start of the episode. He's going to get defeated again. Obviously, he's not going to win, so he's going to get defeated again to a degree. And what, what happens then? Like, they're clearly setting up like, oh, what's his name? I haven't seen all the shows, like the wider stuff with the cartoons. It's the general guy that they were talking about at the start, who apparently never shows his face and stuff. You remember they were talking about that at the start, and like, he's going to come in and be the main bad guy of the Ashoka show. He's obviously going to be introduced or at least mentioned here. They've like dropped in more stuff about the Empire restarting and how they're doing that, which is fine as like an Easter egg, but it can't be the main hook of your show that you have like 5 minutes of dialogue at the start of it. This should have been this, that thing where Moff Gideon spends like 10 minutes monologuing at the start of the episode to all the like secret Empire. That should have been in episode 1.
Mm.
And then the Empire can be secretly doing all these things behind the scenes that then lead the Mandalorians and them to have a battle on Mandalore for control of that planet for the Beskar and for whatever reason other than the Beskar armor. But instead, he's been introduced in the penultimate episode. It just doesn't make any sense. It's such a poorly written show. The dialogue's terrible. The action scenes have been terrible. I honestly have no interest in it anymore. I don't care. Like, if we said before, do you think they'll kill Din Djarin? I don't think they've got the balls to kill Din Djarin. But if they do, all right. No, I don't care.
I wouldn't
thought
be
this season.
surprised if I was just going to say I
Sorry.
wouldn't be surprised if this is his last episode next week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be fussed or surprised. Like, there are rumors that Pedro Pascal wants to leave the Mandalorian, but he's never in it anyway. Like, he's taken his helmet off, what, 3 times in 2 seasons prior to this. He hasn't taken it off in this, and it's been confirmed in recent weeks that he hasn't been working in a lot of episodes because they just use his body double. So, like, what, he's a voice actor, so you don't need Pedro Pascal to continue this story. But again, like, if it's not going to be the Mandalorian anymore, end his story and then start something separately with Bo-Katan. Don't just go, right, this is the Mandalorian, and then hide the fact that it's absolutely not and that it's now the Bo-Katan show. Don't pretend it's something that it's not just to get people to watch. That's the thing that annoys me. And they could have built up this, like we've just said, this season's been loads of small stories. They could have built up this long saga of a story. I've got to defeat Moff Gideon to stop him coming after Grogu or going after the Jedi or to stop the Empire. And then he could have had some big grand death at the end where he sacrifices himself whilst killing Moff Gideon and taking down like a Star Destroyer or something. But instead, he's been captured in the penultimate episode, probably to be broken out by Bo-Katan to then... Actually, that's probably why Grogu's in the IG-11 suit. He's probably going to save Din Djarin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's probably why he's in the fucking suit. But then, it's just crap. Like, if you've got
we
the
shouldn't
plan,
be guessing this much. We shouldn't be saying this much in the penultimate episode.
no.
More lines should be coming together by now.
It's
And we haven't even
disappointing.
touched on the title of this episode, which was The
Right, yeah, let's
Spies.
do that. Let's do that really quickly. The Spies. That's what it was called. No spies revealed at any point, but it does indicate that there is one in the Mandalorian ranks somewhere.
Yeah, who do you think it is?
There are a lot of rumors that it's the Armorer.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I've heard that as well.
I hate that character. The Armorer annoys the crap out of me because she speaks in the same cadence and tone in every conversation. I don't know, Din Djarin. I think that I might be the traitor. Or then,
She reminds
if
me.
she's
She,
in an action scene, please don't shoot me, or I will kill you with my hammer and tongs. Always the same, and doesn't add anything to the series anymore. She was a really interesting character in season one when she was like, you go to her to have your armor upgraded, and she was like the
yeah,
wise person on the way and Mandalore. Now she just shows up every so often, and she's got all the clout. She tells all the Mandalorians what to do. She's got to be the traitor. Who else is it going to be?
yeah. Well, I had a couple of suspicions. Before this episode, I still was quite confident it was Bo-Katan. I still had like a feeling like that he did we say that we thought Bo-Katan broke out Moff Gideon from the ship, or did I speak
Well,
to someone else about that?
that wasn't me.
Uh,
That you talked
well, that's
that
something
about,
I
but
thought about.
what they sort of half suggested that it was the Mandalorians, but then they've never actually confirmed that. So
No.
they might have done, but then at the same time, it might be something that they've just completely forgotten about and they've completely dropped.
Yeah.
Like they've not followed up on it, so who's to say that they will?
Mm.
It's
That's what I
like
mean. It's quite a lot to get answered in this last episode, isn't there?
loads to touch on. Like you've got to have the combat between the Empire and the Mandalorians. You've got to have something between Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon because they've been tied together since season two. You've got to rescue Din Djarin, and then something's got to happen with him. And then if there is a spy in the ranks of the Mandalorians, you've then got to explain that away and have some sort of
Mm.
resolution to that mini storyline that hasn't been a storyline. But again, these are things that you could have established in one long story throughout a whole
Mm.
season. You had 8 episodes and you've told no story so far.
Yeah. It's
He
definitely
took
going
a
to be left on a
bath.
cliffhanger, I think.
Well, he took his bath in like episode 2 or 3, which was what we thought
Mm.
was going to be the main thing of the series. Um, and since like really, they've just had no idea what they're doing this season, and it's just
Mm.
been infuriating to watch, to be honest, because season 1 and 2, like 2 wasn't great. It wasn't as good as season one. Season one was really good. It had a through line. They had a through line the whole time. Yeah, we've got to go and do certain things. We've got to go to certain places to get to this end point over here. But in this series, we haven't known what the fucking end point is the whole time. So everything has just been like, where are the pirates? Where's that
Well,
pirate?
they're all dead, aren't they? There's only
Well,
one
there's
left.
that one that flew away. Is that like something we forget about until he returns in like season 4 for like 10 minutes to get shot down in his ship? Like
Yeah.
they were introduced and gotten rid of straight away. I just don't know what they're doing anymore. Either John Favreau has completely lost his ability to write this character and show, or Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars have got their claws into it and they are deciding what is happening with it.
Mm.
It's worth
It is
saying
a
as
shame, as
well
you said.
It's worth saying as well before we wrap up that Star Wars is absolutely in the toilet. Think of what Star Wars was to what it is now. It was the biggest franchise in the world. It was the most recognizable brand in the world. Now it is a button on a streaming service that hasn't had a
Mm.
film in X number of years. And the last 3 films that came out were all huge disappointments.
So, what do you think is going to happen this last episode?
I don't care.
No.
If honestly, I guess that there will be a space battle where the Mandalorians will shoot down all the TIE fighters. Then there will be some big combat after Bo-Katan has broken Mando out with Grogu that they'll defeat Moff Gideon, but then someone else from the Empire will turn up and chase the Mandalorians off. Because clearly
Hmm.
there is an Empire behind the scenes.
And also quickly, so I know we're wrapping up. How long had the Empire been at Mandalore for? Because there was like a whole base.
That's another thing actually. It's a really good point. Yeah, how long have they actually been established there? And how did the Mandalorians that were on the ship that apparently never left not know?
Yeah. Because I swear Moff Gideon was like, we need to go to Mandalore to get ahead of the game. And but they already had like unless they built that station overnight, I don't really understand why that was there.
But do you want to know what the stupidest thing is? If they had had that scene in season one and then still done all the stupid shit they've done in episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that would have made sense.
Yeah.
Because he said we've got to go there now, and then they've had 5 episodes worth of us doing completely rubbish crap with all the rubbish stories that they've told to arrive at
Yeah.
this moment, and Moff Gideon's there, and we're like, oh yeah, he's supposed to be. That's what's
Yeah.
supposed to have happened.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know. Well,
Oh.
let us know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe, type us up a comment if you'd like, and leave one about what you think's going to happen in the last episode and whether you're still even interested in The Mandalorian. He has been George Turner. I've been Toby Wellington. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will see you soon.